Whether if you're brand new to fitness or you're just getting back after a little hiatus, I'm going to go over what you need to do all the way from building a workout plan to basic nutrition and how to sculpt and shape your body, lose body fat, increase muscle and strength, and your overall health and performance. And seriously, this information can save you years, so please take the time to really give this your full attention if any of this applies to you. I train over 100 people online and in person, and my focus is helping people transform their physiques through sustainable, healthy habits. And later on in this video, I'm literally going to give you a workout plan that you can use for yourself. And I want to start out with one of the most common myths that I see time after time is, I don't want to get too bulky, so that's why I don't really want to lift heavy. And then I hear a lot about people wanting to just get toned. Now, to start off, tone is actually kind of made up in the fitness industry. There's really no difference between being toned and having muscle. All being toned really does mean is that you're at a lower enough body fat percentage where you can actually see your muscle definition. There's no different way that you need to work out to get toned versus being bulky. All you need to really focus on is strength training. You get toned by losing body fat. And this is caused by you being in a caloric deficit. So we'll talk about more on the nutrition a little bit later, but just want to get that out of the way. And your overall workouts shouldn't look too different from wanting to get a little bit more tone and other one trying to put on a lot more muscle mass. Now, the very first step is picking your workout location. And how I look at it is, which one would you be more consistent with? So the three exercise locations I see the most are group exercise studios. So think like Orange Theory, F45, or if your gym does have some group exercise going on in the back. Big box gyms, I'm just thinking like a YMCA, a Gold's, just where all the weights and treadmills are. Or at home, which is kind of like a setup that I have right here with some dumbbells and a bench. Now, when it comes to wanting to increase muscle and strength and decreasing body fat, there's one that I actually would like to eliminate before, and that would actually be the group exercise classes like Orange Theory, F45, and the other group classes going on at your gym. Now, I'm not saying that you should 100% get rid of those classes. If it's what's keeping you consistent at going to the gym, that's perfectly fine, but it's not the most optimal approach when it comes to building muscle and losing body fat. Now, there's three main reasons why I believe that these two are much more superior when it comes to gaining muscle and losing body fat. The first is that you can actually do real strength training. The group exercise classes are a little bit more focused on muscular endurance because rest times are a little bit shorter, so that does play a role into not being able to build as much muscle. And it's really good if you want to increase your muscular endurance or endurance in general. But as for strength and everything, it is 100% not the best. So the second one is that it's a lot harder to get progressive overload in a group exercise class. A lot of times it's focused on like how long you can do something, and you're not always seeing people picking up heavier weights over time. It's more of like a time circuit type of thing, even if the class is called strength training. Now, when you're at home or at a gym, you can literally log the amount of weight that you did on a bench press and make sure that you're going a little bit higher in reps or in weight in the future. And that's what causes the muscle building process. And the last, which is also part of strength training, is rest times. Again, this is much more circuit based. You're moving around everywhere. You're not really focused on building muscle and strength. You're more just increasing your endurance, where you can implement like resting for like 2 to 3 minutes after you do a set of squat, because your muscles actually need that to be ready for the following set. You should feel like you need to wait that amount of time in between. You don't want your next set to hinder in performance when you're strength training. And there are plenty of cases where if you not really train much, you can lose body fat and gain muscle in group exercise classes. The only thing is it's almost like hammering in a nail with a screwdriver. There's so many different ways that are a lot more efficient compared to doing it like that. Now, how much should you work out and strength train? Before I start throwing stuff on, this varies person to person and really depends on what skill level you're at. But if you're a complete beginner or if you haven't really been working out in a while, I recommend not doing anything past 4 days. I'm going to show you a few examples of how you can set up your workout split to fit into whatever schedule works out best for you. Let's say you only have 2 days that you can get into the gym for 45 minutes to an hour. Well, if that's the case, I'd actually want you to do 2 full body workouts throughout the week. My handwriting is bad, that just means full body. Thing with this, you get to hit each muscle group twice per week. Would recommend putting at least 1 rest day in between the 2 workouts, but a lot more efficient than having an arm day and then a leg day. Before I get into how you can set up if you want to just work out 3 or 4 days, I want to talk a little bit about the traditional bro split. This split I really don't recommend if you're just starting out your fitness journey. One, it's not really the most effective way of training. Normally you do want to hit each muscle group twice per week. A lot harder to. Second is that on each one of these days, let's say you just did like a chest day. By the time that you get to like your 3rd or 4th exercise, there's a good chance that there's a lot of fatigue going on and you're not going to be able to perform as well. And then it can just lead to a lot of junk volume, especially if you're not experienced in knowing when you've almost done a little bit too much to see results. Now, this graph, just imagine that we're all focusing on your chest. There does become a certain point throughout the week where a certain number of sets per muscle group doesn't really give you linear results, because muscle gain almost works on a curve kind of like this, where you'll see a plateau as sets increase, and then if you go a little bit over it, you can actually see muscle gain go down even more because you're in the overtraining phase. And that's something it's a lot harder to gauge in something like a bro split than if any of these other ones I'm about to talk about. All right, back to 3 days. There's a few options that you can do here. One of my favorite ones that I find that works really well is actually a upper and then a lower and then a full body split. For instance, you would hit upper body on Monday, take a rest on Tuesday, Wednesday you hit lower body, and then Friday you hit a full body workout. The other option that I'd recommend for a 3-day a week would just look like full body 3 times a week. So again, let's just say you're hitting full body 1 on Monday, 2 on Wednesday, full body 3 on Friday. The only thing with this is that it can be a little bit harder to recover on. That's kind of why, if you are just getting into it, like something like an upper lower full body split, it really is personal preference. There's no right or wrong answer with this. And one thing that I really like about this is you can tell yourself that you're going to the gym 3 times in a week, but how many times does it occur where you almost don't even make that 3rd session? Well, what you can do is just hit your 2 full body workouts. You miss one, at least you hit both muscle groups the entire week, and then you can start back up on the following day. So what you can do is have only 2 different versions of each full body workout. So what this would look like is on Monday, you would hit full body, we'll just call it A, and then full body B, and then full body A. And then the following week, you would just start with B again. And in a little bit, I'm gonna go through what that specific program would look like, because I would recommend that to quite a few people, especially if you're just starting out. 4 days, there's a lot of different ways that you can mess with this, but I would just suggest a upper, lower, upper, lower. So what this would look like is on Monday, Tuesday, take a rest on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. However you want to do it. Still would recommend putting a rest somewhere in between right here. And these are just a few examples of how you can design a workout split. There is many other ways that you can as well. I'm not saying that one's more right than the other. These are just what I found to work really well with my clients and giving them enough time to recover and make gains as well. And I know that I mentioned that you probably shouldn't do more than 4 days if you're just starting out. Well, the truth is that there's a lot of advanced people that even I know that will only work out about like 3 days a week. Don't think that the number of days mean anything about how advanced you are in the gym. Sometimes it's way more practical for recovery, and if your intensity is really high, to do less. Because when it comes to proper strength training programming, more isn't always better. And you might be asking, what do I do on my rest days? If you're still feeling up to it and you're doing good, use that as a very light cardio session. Work on some mobility as well, yoga, stuff like that. Focus on doing that rather than just lifting a whole bunch of weight. All right, now let's talk about how to structure a workout. And I'm going to use the 2 to 3 day full body approach that I talked about earlier. And yes, I know there's many different ways that you can write a workout plan. I'm just doing this one just to keep it as simple as possible and give you the tools to create your own workout program. And if you wanted a customized program for your lifestyle and your goals, I do provide one-on-one online coaching where I take out all the guesswork for you, so there's not a single thing that you had to think about other than just following a plan and know that you're going to end up getting results. If you go down to the description, you'll see an application link there below. Just click on that and I'll be in touch with you shortly. We're going to first talk about exercise selection when going through all of these. And then later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about like sets and reps. So how this is created is this up here are your top 3 biggest focus areas. Now, you can do a lot more and I'll get more to like some accessory lifts down here. But if you were to just do a half-ass workout, your goal would be to complete at least some type of squat or hip hinging movement, a push and a pull. And just for clarification, when I say hinge, I mean anything where your hips are kind of moving like this. So you can think of something like a Romanian deadlift. Now, when you see squat, I don't just mean that you need to put a bar on your back and let's go down into a squat. Depending on the level that you're at, you might even want to do something like a goblet squat where you're just holding the weight out in front. So here's an example of what would fit into each category. So for the hinge and squat category, you'd have your goblet squat and then some version of a deadlift. On the first workout, we're going with a bench press, more on a horizontal type of push, whereas the next one is a shoulder press where you're pushing a little bit more vertical, so that's going to be your main focus on the second one. Pulling, I got a lat pull down, so that's a vertical pull. On the second day, you're hitting a single arm row, and that's more of a horizontal pull. You hit something like this, that's the most minimalistic. I know most of y'all will probably want to do a little bit more, but what you can end up doing here is adding on to what's almost missing. I don't know how you move, I don't know what your preferences are, so I'm just going to throw in a couple examples. Do what works out best for you. Maybe you don't want to work as much on your arms, you take away that right there. But you want to make your main priority on these big compound lifts is what I can't stress enough. And when I say compound movements, I mean anything where you're not just isolating one muscle group. So a good example here is on a goblet squat. When I go down with this, I'm not just working only one muscle group in my legs. I'm getting my quads, getting my hamstrings, getting some glutes firing, getting a lot of stuff. So it's a multi-joint movement where as for a bicep curl, this is more of an isolation movement where I'm only focusing on really one muscle, and that is my bicep. Put most of your energy and focus into your main compound lifts and use the accessory area to focus on targeted areas. All right, what rep ranges should you do and what works best for you? So normally the internet will try and make it as black and white as possible when it's really not, and tell you like strength is this amount of reps, muscle hypertrophy, fancy word for muscle gain, is this amount of reps, and muscular endurance is right here. It's not really that black and white. There are some studies that will show that within a 6-week study or something, the 8 to 12 rep range will be a little bit better on muscle gain. But what none of that really looks at is the ability to switch in between each one, because what would end up happening with somebody that's just doing squats in that 8 to 12 rep range, it's a lot higher chance of them plateauing in the future. So it's really good to almost rotate them every now and then. Now, how often should you rotate them? I would give it minimum 3 to 4 weeks before you even think of changing out any exercises in your programs, any rep ranges as well. Now, the most simple advice that I can give you is pick a rep range for a specific exercise, and we'll just use the squat for example. They don't have to be exactly 1 to 5, 8 to 12, or 15 plus. They can be somewhere in between. So what we can do, for example, is take the dumbbell bench press and say we want to work in that 8 to 12 rep range. And let's just say that we're benching about 30 pounds or something in each hand. Once when we're able to get that up to 12 reps, and then we'll move up to 35 pounds and then 40 pounds. And then once when we exit that phase, that's when we can go heavy as crap and maybe move into something along the 3 to 6 rep range, increase the weight significantly, probably put up close to 50-ish pounds, work in that 3 to 6-ish rep range, then go back to your hypertrophy rep range a month later, and you'll notice that you'll be able to jump up a lot more quickly. Let's talk about the warm up. So you need to do mobility in the beginning. Like the last thing that you want and the biggest thing that can hurt your progress is if you get hurt. I'm not going to touch too much on this because it does vary person to person. Just freaking give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to warm up, do some mobility, do some light cardio if you need to. We're on to nutrition, and we are going to keep it super simple. So you're trying to gain muscle, lose body fat. These are the 3 things that I'd recommend anybody that's just starting their fitness journey. Number 1, you need to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Especially if you're someone that's going for weight loss, I prefer to go at your goal target body weight and get that in grams of protein. Let's say that I'm 200 pounds and I want to cut down to 160 pounds. I would have 160 grams of protein per day. Second is make most of your diet, if possible, consist of whole foods. Now, I'm not saying to freak out if you have something a little processed like a bag of potato chips or something. If you can make most of your diet that, you're going to notice that energy levels are going to be a lot higher, your performance is going to be a little bit better, and especially if you're trying to lose body fat, it's a lot harder to eat in excess calories with whole foods. And when I say one ingredient whole foods, I mean like a freaking potato where the only ingredient is a potato. And finally, find a way to track your calories and macros. And if you don't know what macros are, all that means is it's fats, carbs, and protein. So it's an easier way for you to really track your protein. But the main priority is if you are trying to lose body fat or anything, you need to be tracking your calories and protein more than anything. There's a bunch of apps out there. MyFitnessPal is one of them. And there's even some AI ones of it's like iCal or something like that. So whatever the hell you choose, just use that app and make sure that you're hitting your goals consistently. And the main thing with starting your fitness journey is taking small steps. Yes, there's a lot of stuff about nutrition that you need to nail down, and having a optimized workout plan, that's all awesome. But what I would recommend is pick one area. And the biggest area that you can ever focus on is going to be consistency. Now, within consistency, you can break that into different components. So it could look like, am I consistent at getting to my workouts every single week? Cool. Focus on making your workouts and don't worry about anything else. Then we can take that one step further. Am I consistent at pushing myself in each workout to where I'm adding more weight to the bar, I'm adding more reps? And then when you get all that down, that's when you can also look at nutrition. Okay, am I consistently tracking my calories? Am I consistently hitting my protein targets? And you build up on things. And in all honesty, it took me like 3 or 4 years before I even started looking at nutrition. Now, the reason behind that is because I didn't have anybody telling me what to do or anything, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But what I did was I built off of small steps that helped lead me there. And all of it first started out with strength training and then introducing nutrition a little bit later on. So if you didn't get anything from this video, just take small steps and focus on consistency in specific areas before moving to the next thing. Peace off.